Yes, yes, you are. You are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. It is Tuesday, the 26th of August, 2025, and we're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. We're even streaming on that social media platform that begins with a F, but we don't say the name because they censor the heck out of me all the time. And we're also streaming at the mothership, WYAB.com. You can tune in anywhere in the world. You can always catch us there. If you want to be part of the show today, standard 601-879-0002. And if you want to be a part of the text line, texts are already coming in, stories that I didn't even plan on covering, but people are interested in them, so we'll try to get to them. 601-879-5060. We're here to equip the saints. And you know what? Every once in a while, reading Proverbs every day, one just comes across me, and it just really focuses me in on the show. We're going to be talking about the Education Freedom Summit that happened yesterday in Jackson. I was there. I got to meet a few people who were there. It was really very informative. It was a good show, or it was a good meeting, and I thought the information was really well put out there. You were able to go talk to the witnesses after the meeting. Overall, a lot of good information was out there. Doesn't mean that it's going to pass or even what it's going to look like yet, but that's the big push for today's show. For a lack of wood, the fire goes out. And where there is no gossiper, quarreling dies down. So we're not here to gossip about what happened at that meeting. We're going to actually talk about what was said. I've got 4 pages of notes. As you know, I always do the show prep, and it's important. Yesterday, State Capitol, room 113, it was a huge turnout. I stopped counting after 140 people. Most of them were legislators, but there were a couple of different groups there. I was sitting next to a reporter from the Clarion Ledger. I didn't see their article out today, so I'm not going to reference it. But this school choice, it's coming to Mississippi. It's already in 19 states around America. And yes, that money follows the students. And if that student goes to a private school, that's where the money goes. So you're going to be able to have the opportunity to potentially go to a private school. But there's some nuances we're going to get into as this unfolds on how that money actually works. One of the things, and the first witness was Dr. Smith, and this is the point that I want to really drive home. It's up to the parents to decide where their kid's going to go to school and how they're going to educate their kid. And Dr. Smith gave a really great example, and I want to relay it to you all. She said a child from age 1 to age 3, the neurons and synapses inside the brain is when everything really starts getting connected. And the more stimulus and the more things you do in the early childhood period, the better off they're going to be. And I can just say from my own personal experience, I agree with this. With my sons, hooked on phonics, started at age 1. And by 3, they were reading. And my son Andrew and Austin are ferocious readers. You can sit there and what you put into those kids, they're going to build and retain. And she equated it to cement. You've got the cement, it's all nice and smooth out, and you're looking at it, and you're gonna put the handprints in there, right, in the date, right? So, when the cement is just freshly poured and it's all laid out and you put your hand in there, it's to make that impression is really, really simple. That's age 1 to 3. After it hardens for a little bit, if you wanna try to correct the cement and put it in there, you can still do it, but it's gonna be a lot harder. And once that cement is almost dry, it's gonna be next to impossible without using a jackhammer. So, when do you wanna start building, your kids' ability to learn, read, write, speak, communicate, interact? It's those early years. It's a lot easier to discipline a two-year-old, believe it or not, than it is a 16-year-old. It's a lot easier to start those good habits early than to continue on down the line. So, we talked about early childhood education, Mississippi's 3rd grade. She talked about in 2011, Mississippi's 3rd grade failure, and she had all the numbers and statistics up there. One thing, and by the way, Jason White, it was a great turnout, good job. The one thing I genuinely wish they could improve, and I'm not like quibbling or bickering or anything like that, but I genuinely wish that they would have been able to have a live stream to this, and we could have had access to the slides because they weren't provided, and there wasn't like a link to go to. I'm not complaining. I just think that would be something maybe if we could improve on in the future, that would be really, really cool. It needs to happen. It they then went through and talked about how the Mississippi Miracle happened, and I know many of us out here who have talked about the Mississippi Miracle and how we're just shifting the numbers around to make sure that we get a schools with a C grade, a B grade, a grade. I'm not debating that or even arguing that. I think that there is somewhat of a paperwork drill going on here to make everybody look good. But that's why school choice is so important. Because if you as the parent can go ahead and get your kid locked into the school that you choose, get plugged into where you want to go, then everything is gonna work out okay, and you know that you're gonna be happy with the school that your child is going to. Even if there is some schools that are pencil whipping it or just getting people to go above that level, you have the opportunity to send your kid to where you want. They were talking about, also childhood care is wherever or childcare is wherever the child is. This was something that was really important to me, and it made a lot of sense, and I think that's part of the value of attending these conferences is that you can see what the educators are thinking, what the, uh, government is thinking, what the parents are thinking, and the truth of the matter is this: wherever your child is, whether they're at home with mom and dad, whether they're at home with grandma and grandpa, auntie and uncle, babysitter, teenager, uh, paying for daycare and a child care provider, whether they're going to an early Head Start program, that's where the child care is, and that's what we've gotta focus on. And they talked about the importance of having meaningful childcare, just not sticking an iPad in front of somebody and saying, "Entertain yourself." That doesn't work out good for anybody. So, I thought that was really, really informative. Kindergarten readiness scores, they talked about, the importance of pre-K and getting your kids lined up, ready to go to kindergarten, reading, different activities right there, and different programs that were available. Um, and what the Trump administration is trying to get put into the program is choice-based childcare being baked into the system, and that can be faith-based too, and people are finding out that faith-based uh, rated childcares are often higher rated, but not always. And it comes down, and this was what I really appreciated, even though my faith is really important to me and my kids and childcare, but but it's my choice as the parent. And if I like what that childcare center's doing, then, I'm gonna give them my dollars. If it's faith-based, that's great. And I think it's critical that the sooner that our kids get into meaningful childcare where they're actively developing and learning and there's a real structure, a class, a program in place that says, "Look, your child's 1 year old. We're gonna start working on the ABCs and counting." That might be too young for some of y'all, but I can seriously remember talking or working with my kids at that early age, already starting to plant those seeds. So that by the time they get to pre-K, they're already ahead of the game. By the time kindergarten we're going, my kids were already reading basic books. But that didn't happen by chance. That just didn't happen by mom and dad sitting there just letting them go off and do whatever they wanted to do. It's having the parents, the caregivers, the guardians, and let's be truthful. It's just, this isn't even debatable. It's just what it is. I know it's not everywhere, but the best situation is for a child to have a mom and a dad sitting there pushing it together. Now, it doesn't always work like that, and I totally get that. I do. But that is the best case scenario. Having a mom and dad sit there and push the child in early education, whether that be reading, writing, getting outdoors activities, just doing the stuff that parents used to do that maybe we don't do anymore because we don't have time. We all can agree that there are places, or we live in a time now where moms aren't rewarded for being stay-at-home moms. In fact, if you're a stay-at-home mom, people look at you funny. Never mind that the most important job and the highest title a woman will ever hold in her life is being a mother. I think that's the best. I think grandmother might be the most fun. Me being a dad, a father is the most important. Me being a grandfather is a really fun. But it's a little bit different responsibility level, And so these are the things that Dr. Smith really was talking about. 40% of 4-year-olds are not in care or in private schooling. So 40% of the kids don't have a formal program in place. Are they going to be behind? Not necessarily, but they're not going to have the same preparations ready to go to meet that standard right away, whereas someone who has been trained up for it, and that only makes sense. Mississippi led the way for more faith-based provider programs. That's something that is really big here in Mississippi, and the Trump administration acknowledges that. And if that's how parents want to take their kids, to have them go up that way, I think that's great. But there is a hook to this. And when we get back, we're going to talk about that hook. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
Floor space, home to beautiful, timeless antique treasures. Antique Mall of the South is open Monday to Saturday, 10 to 5. Check them out online at antiquemallofthesouth.com or go to the Antique Mall of the South Facebook page. You can also read the dozens of 5-star reviews online. Come see for yourself at Antique Mall of the South in Ridgeland. Now open Monday to Saturday, 10 to 5. That's Antique Mall of the South, Highway 51 in Ridgeland.
Whether new construction or remodeling, Stephen Arrington and his team at Elite Custom Construction can design and build your dream kitchen and cabinets, inside and outside. Using high-quality products, Elite Custom Construction specializes in cabinetry and intricate millwork. Established in 2011, licensed and insured, Elite Custom Construction is your solution to your next project. Call Stephen at 601-927-0552 or visit them online at elitecustomconstruction.net.
Hi, it's Jackson author Jeff Pettigo, and I've written a satirical novel you should read called City Zoo, an Unfairy Story, a witty Orwellian animal fable about the lying fake news media. What happens is a former circus elephant runs for animal zookeeper, and all the monkeys in the zoo's fairy tale news media go crazy trying to take him out. Sounds familiar. It's the perfect pop culture satire for the beach. Learn more about the novel City Zoo at cityzoo.us. cityzoo.us.
Hi, this is Lee Atkins of Home Care Plus in Ridgeland. We are a proud carrier of Abena Premium Incontinence products. Abena has the most absorbency available, making changes and leaks less likely. After 7 years as a seller, I can tell you these products are amazing and worth every penny to quality of life for patient and caregiver. And we ship all incontinence products as well. So please come see us at Home Care Plus in Ridgeland for all the incontinence needs of you or your family member. That's Home Care Plus in Ridgeland.
I would buy her the moon if I could, but I've got to stick to my budget. John and Corey, how can I afford the diamond she really wants?
You know, I think you'll be genuinely surprised by how much diamond you can afford at Juniker Jewelry Company.
Because here you will find 10 times the diamonds and engagement rings of average jewelry stores.
And the true diamond experts to help you put it all together.
The diamond engagement ring of her dreams is right here, right now at Juniker Jewelry Company.
And with multiple financing options and good credit, it can be remarkably affordable.
We even have diamond engagement rings complete with your choice of center diamonds, starting at under $2,000. So, what are you waiting for?
Go ahead. Give her the moon.
We make easy at Juniker Jewelry Company, Mississippi's direct diamond importer.
Juniker Jewelry Company, Mississippi's direct diamond importer. From anywhere in Mississippi, we're at 1485 Highland Colony Parkway, just south of 463 in Madison, and online at junikerjewelry.com. Juniker Jewelry, because love can't wait.
How do you get the hell out of your life?
Turn to Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him.
You trust in him, and you let him love the hell right out of you.
How do you get the hell out of your life?
Replace it with Jesus. We got to be born again, born of the Spirit, and that's by trusting Jesus Christ, turning from our sins and trusting Jesus.
Tune in to Get the Hell Out of Your Life every Sunday at 10 a.m. on 103.9 WYAB.
Rotor's Plumbing of Pearl, your familiar plumber with these similar names. Locally owned and operated by Chris Rotor, Rotor's Plumbing is no franchise, simply lower prices and better service without the dreaded overpriced upsell. Rotor's is one of the few places you'll find that actually specialize in tankless water heater repair, as well as being your full-service plumber. And most importantly, service after the sale, meaning the techs actually answer your call, with misses averaging callbacks of 10 minutes or less. Rotor's Plumbing at roedersplumbing.com.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are back. We are talking about the Education Freedom Summit that was held yesterday, hosted by Speaker Jason White, attended by at least 140 people. Like I said, I quit counting after that. And we're just talking about the importance of having school choice, school freedom for the parents. Parents are the people who bring these babies into the world. It's the most important decisions they'll ever make is where to send their kids to go to school, where to get educated. And it has a huge advantage. And Dr. Smith, I'm just going over her recommendations and just things that I found. There's a really good article. I'm plug them right now. Magnolia Tribune. Trump administration officials promote expanded education freedom in Mississippi by Daniel Tyson, August 26, 2025. Members of the Mississippi House Select Committee on Education Freedom heard testimony from 2 Trump administration officials on Monday and how school choice could help students and parents in the Magnolia state. Yep, that's the basic overview of it. I'm already getting questions saying, shouldn't the committee take questions from the parents? And specifically, good friend of the show, Chris Hinkle, asked that question, and I agree with Chris. They should hear from the parents. I believe that's something that's going to happen in one of the following months. They're having more hearings on education freedom, and the next one is going to be September 25th. It will not be at 1:00 in the morning. It will be earlier in the day. So I have to figure out whether or not I'm going to have somebody guest host the show or run a rerun, but I want to be there. You know, this show talks about making sure that you get active in local politics. And I am a lot of things. You can accuse me of a lot of things, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. So if I don't go to these things and set the example for that, how can I expect you to? How can I even ask you to do that if I don't do it myself? Which is one of the reasons I went. And being a recovering politician myself, it's always fun and exciting and a little bit of a rush to go into the halls of government where laws get made and just witness the process, even though I'm not a part of it. You can still have incredible impact and be top advisors to your legislators. So that's one of the things there that why I went is because I want to be able to give you this direct report so that you can hear it directly from someone who sat there through the whole meeting. I did step out. I missed probably 2 minutes. Had to have a restroom break. It was long, and I drank a full bottle of water before I walked in there. That was a tactical error on my part. I'll fix it for next time. Something that Dr. Smith really said is parents know better than the bureaucrats. And there is, for those of you who believe in school choice and educational freedom, America First Policy Institute is where a lot of this data is coming from. I don't know how they get their funding. I didn't look into that. I probably should. That'd be a great show for Friday. Look into where they get their funding from. But they really promoted fatherhood and motherhood and the importance of having parents actively involved early on in their child's education and upbringing. So we've all heard the term helicopter parent, drive-by father, drive-by mom, baby daddy. Culture is all screwed up, and we've got to definitely fix that moving forward. But that's what she was talking about and really stressed those important key factors. And I agree with that. And if it sounds like a broken record, it's really not. There is example after example of where, grandma coming over and helping and reading and promoting that. And, this show is on the cutting edge of societal evolution. We just talked about yesterday how many people read a book last year for fun and leisure. If you're not teaching your kid to read for fun and leisure, if they don't see you reading, why are they going to read? Think about it. You are either the very best example for your child or the very worst example. I can't get my kid to go to church. Does he or she see you reading the Bible every day? Does she see you praying? Okay, you don't want to use spirituality. I agree. What do you want your kid to do that's really well? Oh, I want my kid to just get good grades. Does your kid see you studying every day? Doesn't matter what you're studying. Maybe you're a construction worker and you need to understand something new about the job site. Does your child see you in a book actively reading and going through the process of trying to make yourself a better person on the job? Construction worker for me wouldn't be that good. Flying, farmer, something like that would probably been a better example. But you get the point. And this is where private schools, charter schools, faith-based schools are really getting an advantage over the public schools, is because they're having much more detailed, individualized instruction. And the last thing that Dr. Smith talked about was go after the low-hanging fruit. Leverage money to formulate a system. And that is like the one thing that stuck out, not only for Dr. Smith, but then Dr. Burke also talked. And it's got to be a formulaic system where the money follows the child, not the school district. And I think that's where you're going to see the really big conflict come in with all of this, is the Democrats are going to want the money to go to the school district, and the conservatives, the Republicans. Honestly, I'm not even going to say that. I'm going to say the education choice, education freedom folks are going to want that money to follow the kids. And I broke down here, I'm trying to find how much is spent on each child. I thought I wrote it down. But according to this, in Mississippi, $12,390 follows each student. And this is where I want to bring up Dr. Burke. She brought up something called a micro school, where a group of parents get together, they hire a teacher to teach their kids. Imagine if you had a micro school for 4th grade where you had a total of 10 kids in that classroom, and that teacher was able to charge $9,000 per child, and then the other money would go for school supplies and everything like that. That teacher's making $90,000. She's got a curriculum she's got to follow, and you still got money left over, and you're in a classroom of 10. I didn't even know what a micro school was, but that's kind of like what's going on. And you know where micro schools are performing the very best? In incredibly rural areas. And they brought up the Delta. And they also brought up areas that where schools aren't doing so well, where parents want to get their kids out of schools because they're being bullied. You know, that's something else too that is completely different from when we went to school. The bullying problem today, it's brutal. It's intense. I'm getting ahead of myself, but moving into Dr. Burke's testimony, you know, she brought up, and this is how I knew, by the way, I liked this lady, because she brought up her very first example. It actually angered me. It hooked me. She brought up Sputnik and how the former Soviet Union, the communists, were doing better than we were in space. And they just didn't launch Sputnik 1. 2 weeks later, they launched Sputnik 2. And I was like, you know, I get that. America really had to kick itself in the butt to get going on space, and we're going to have to kick ourselves in the butt to get going on this educational freedom. Because she then went into Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Great Society, and how we've spent $3 trillion, and test scores are basically flatlined from where they were back when the Great Society started. It didn't work. The data's there. The charts and slides that she had, where she walked through all the different lines and what they meant, it was really enlightening to me. And I know that there are people who are listening to this who are going to say, you know what, I don't agree with what she's saying about the Great Society. I have my own beliefs on it. That's fine. But please bring your charts with the slideshows, because she's got the test scores where they're basically flatlined since 1967, I think is when it was signed. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't matter. That's what it was. There's no increase in education outcomes from day one of the Lyndon Baines Johnson administration to today. And I talk about the flatline. Caroline Levitt in her, I should have done that. I should have pulled up the soundbite from Carol Levitt. She just talked about the $3 trillion. And the bottom line is that 30% of 4th graders are proficient outside of what's going on. But with the Mississippi Miracle, more has gone to improve that. And so we need to look at what we're doing that's well in Mississippi continue to do those things, but then also bring this education freedom back online. We have to. If we don't, we are going to end up being just like Illinois, just like New York, just like California, absolutely abysmal, spending billions and billions of dollars and not getting a darn thing for it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. Stay tuned. We're going to continue to talk about education freedom in Mississippi. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are moving and grooving, talking about educational freedom, school choice, and I don't know if it was a meeting, a hearing, gathering, whatever it was yesterday. It was awesome. And I'm just talking about the highlights that were important to me. I've already pointed you to the Magnolia Tribune. If you want to go read a journalist perspective there, you can. You can also go to WLBT. They've got a story there too. The great thing about this program is that I definitely give you my point of view, but we give you the story from all sides of the angle. And we'll tell you each and every way that you could possibly go about this and let you decide, because the more points of data you have, the better off you're going to be. This is something that education freedom and school choice give you, not just with attending a brick and mortar school. It covers tutoring, after school care, tuition, supplies. And the first state to start all this was Arizona back in 2011. And what was really interesting was there was a state rep, and I don't know where he was from, so it doesn't matter. But he said, "Didn't Arizona's school choice program go bankrupt?" It's actually not true. And Dr. Burke had an immediate response for that and directed that state rep where to go to get the correct information. Long story short is Arizona has had a surplus through they have more of what they call a voucher program, I believe. And West Virginia also has universal student access. They're called ESAs, voucher that follows the kid everywhere it goes. And that money is specifically supposed to be used for that child's education. So if you do a micro school and you want to go ahead and pay the teacher salary of X and the student activity fee of Y, there's a lot of accountability that goes into this that parents are going to have to track. It's not as easy as some think it would be. The other really important point that Dr. Burke brought up about this is that there wasn't like an initial exodus from the public school system. The truth of the matter is that while there are many parents out there who want to have their kid in private school and have that ability to go do whatever it is, wherever they want to go to school, many parents out there don't have the resources to figure out how to make that all happen. And what they found out in Florida and in Alabama, it was a gradual increase. Same with Alabama. It was a gradual increase from when the program was launched. And in the first year, there was about 1,000 kids, and then it went to 2,000. And now in Louisiana, if I got my numbers right, 70,000 kids are now using their ESAs to go to private school. And in Florida, I didn't write this down wrong, 500,000 kids. So it's something that can happen and it can take time. One of the really neat things that Dr. Burke brought out about this is once this competition came into the children's education sphere, they found out that public schools were actually starting to promote themselves and all the awesome things that they have at their public schools, the good ones. They were actually having billboard campaigns talking about their high academics and their arts programs and their sports programs. That was something that was not addressed that I've written down to ask if I get a chance to ask, or I will maybe send a text to some of the state reps who are on that board. You know, what happens if you send your kid to a child or your child to a private school, a micro school, what have you, but they want to be active in a choir or they want to be active in a sport? Can they take the money, pay the fee, and go to a public school for that sport? I mean, that's going to be a real interesting point of view right there. What if you've got an outstanding young soccer player and well, soccer's not good because they got club football and they're going to go play club soccer and they're not going to do that. How about a really good football player and they want to play high school football? is how what's the gateway going to be for them to get involved onto a team? Do they just pay Jackson Prep a fee to go there to participate in football? Those are some of the things that didn't come up that I thought actually might have impact or something that needs to be thought through a little bit more. But now here's the other thing. We talked about faith-based programs. And when we say faith-based, what do we predominantly think of? Let's just be truthful. Christian, right? We're having straight talk here. What happens if you get a situation where a madrasa opens up? Does everybody know what a madrasa is? It's an Islamic school where the Quran is taught in a very strict manner. And all of a sudden, they're not learning English, they're learning Arabic. The thing about a public school or a private school is that there are tests that they have to pass. But, the curriculum is still very much open to the public. And this is, I think, the one spot that's going to cause a lot of people to really sit back and think. For me, it still doesn't change my view. I want every parent to be able to choose where their kid goes to school. Can they pass the ACT? It did not. I know someone's going to say this in the text. I can see it right there. Did they talk about the U.S. government? No one talked about the U.S. government test. I think it would be really awesome if our state reps put in a requirement in the junior year for every junior in high school to have to pass the immigration test that registered legal aliens and immigrants who come into the country have to take in order to become a citizen. You will see America change so fast. It'd be great if we could take field trips to places in Africa and the Middle East where there is no freedom. Heck, you don't even have to go to Africa or the Middle East anymore. Just go to England, where they're arresting kids for saying, "I like bacon" in public in the earshot of Muslims. Where they're arresting people for their comments that they make on social media. The freedoms that we have here to not only educate our kids, but just live our lives is so much better because of the Constitution of the United States of America, our Bill of Rights, and follow-on amendments. There is no place better. And these people who are out there in the doom loop just tearing down America every chance they get, this is just an example of why we're not what they say we are. And school choice has to be at the forefront of it. It empowers the parents. It empowers the children. It's definitely a good deal. We're going to take our last break of the hour. When we get back, I'm going to try to hit some phone calls. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Hey, you there?
Yes, how you doing? I'm sorry to bother. I would have not called this late if I realized that you were near the end of your morning session. But I just wanted to tell you, between you and I, both military veterans, that it bothered me last night when I saw on the news them burning that flag. And I thought to myself, and I try to be a true Christian.
Yep.
And I, but it did bother me. And I found myself saying, you got other countries you can go to. If you don't love this country, then just go and, I'm sure President Trump, or if you ask two Americans, they'll donate for you to take a flight to another country. You don't have to live here. And I just think that, and it bothers me more that I have relatives. I was raised very poor. Okay.
Yep.
And we have seen such advances, just not just in our family, but in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And we got people out here want to burn the flag, or if you don't mind me saying, Democrats. Some of these Democrats going around, and most of the ones I'm talking about are Democrats, going around spreading this, and it really bothers me. Why don't you just start telling the truth and say this country is a great country? And okay, all right, that's all right. I tell you, sometimes I find myself getting upset when just thinking about it, but last night bothered me.
Yeah.
Okay, saying that. So I just want to tell you, and God bless you and your listeners. Okay,
Willie, I appreciate it. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon, my man.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it's the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are moving and grooving. We are already in the last segment of the first hour. The time just flies by. I love sharing my mornings with y'all, talking about the things that are on my mind, things that are impacting Mississippi and our country. There's so much more to this education freedom stuff. During the break, we had a caller call in, and, he was expressing his anger about how great this country is, and yet there are still people who burn the flag. And I've got that story in my stack of stuff. I'll try to get it in the next hour. But getting back to this education piece, I want to talk about one thing that a state representative said. And he said it's important that if your kid is going to do good in school, they have to have a good home environment and a good culture. And he talked about how he was a pastor, or maybe he was just a church elder, and he would go to all the graduations and ceremonies for all the high school kids in his church. And one of the kids said, how come all the valedictorians are Asian? That's what the kid said. I guess I got to be Asian to be smart. And the answer is no. He said, you just need a mother or a grandmother, specifically, and this is the study, specifically a woman who drives education as something that's really important in those kids' lives. And that's what the Asian culture is. And I was like, well, that's true. I got an Asian son. And his grades by far are the best out of all my kids. My daughter's darn good though. She's gonna pull that weight. That's not a problem. But my other two oldest boys, they did okay, but they're not rocket scientists, engineers, or future astronauts. But they're wise, and they work hard, and they get paid a good wage, so they're all right. But getting back to this, and I was like, man, that was the strongest quote. And the thing about it was when this state representative said that, everybody in the room nodded their head in agreement. It didn't matter whether you were liberal or conservative, man or woman, black, white, or otherwise. I watched it. I was sitting there. You can't tell me it didn't happen because it did. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, I got to go talk to this guy. And the one thing I remember from him, he said he was from DeSoto County. So we're going around and we're talking about all this other stuff. And I finally get the chance to go up to him and I'm like, you know, Mr. Representative, that quote that you gave on culture, talking about the importance of culture, was really good. And could I get your name? And he just looks at me and he's like, Dan Eubanks. Drop the mic. It's not even debatable that Dan Eubanks is one of the greatest state reps we have in Mississippi. Why am I not shocked that someone with a man of integrity of Dan Eubanks' level ask a question like that, a pointed question that, look, that's touching the third rail. You know, Clay Edwards every day talks about the culture war, the culture rot that are pervasive and invading certain sectors of our community. And we have to honestly step back, take all of our emotion out of it. Look, is that a true statement in the Asian community? Is that a true statement in the white community or the black community or the Indian community or whatever community you want to put out there? And the bottom line is that if we don't have a society that really values not education, going to get a PhD to go be whatever, but getting an education to where you can be a productive member of society, farmers, welders, electricians, plumbers. There's a lot of trade skills. And by the way, this whole meeting did talk about trade skills. It was awesome. It was really good. I was really grateful to see that they were talking about trade skills, because I think that's part of our problem in society, is that there are a lot of people who are going to get these jobs thinking that they're going to be a rocket scientist, an engineer, an astronaut, a doctor, a lawyer. We talked about Charles Barkley talking to all those kids. They all wanted to be NBA players. Not one wanted to be a doctor. Not one wanted to be a lawyer. Not one wanted to be a teacher. Until we start changing the culture at the very lowest level, and the easiest place to do that is starting with the birth of your child, we're going to continue to have culture rot. And it doesn't matter who you identify with. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Steve Kathan, a lawyer for Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, says a lawsuit's been filed to challenge her firing by President Trump. He brought up mortgage fraud allegations on social media. She insisted she won't leave her job. CBS's Olivia Rinaldi.
This White House is certainly testing the legality around this. The argument is that if there is enough cause, the president can remove her from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. But what does cause actually mean? Of course, this allegation that was alleged against her from this federal agency was then given to criminal referral to the DOJ. It's just a criminal referral right now. She has not been charged with anything.
A federal judge has dismissed the Trump administration administration's lawsuit against all 15 federal judges in Maryland over an order that stopped the deportation of migrants, challenging their removals. CBS's Jim Crisula reports a Republican-drawn congressional map has been tossed out of courts.
A federal judge says the GOP-controlled Utah legislature must come up with a new congressional map after ruling the present one violates voters' rights, the way it divides Salt Lake County, the state's population center, and Democratic stronghold. Utah has 4 congressional districts.
An investigation after a deadly Florida crash involving a trucker from India has led to new action against 3 states by the Trump administration.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says California, Washington, and New Mexico could lose millions in federal funding if they don't enforce English language requirements for truckers. He says law enforcement pulls truckers over and finds they've been cited.
And what do? Nothing. They turn them loose, put them back on the road.
The Department of Homeland Security says the trucker in the deadly Florida millions crash in federal funding illegally. Allison Keyes, CBS News, Washington.
A private analysis finds consumer confidence slipped this month. CBS's Kelly O'Grady says there are nagging concerns about jobs.
Optimism about income growth also went down, and that's an important one because that's what mitigates the effects of inflation.
Well, now to California, CBS's Carter Evans is covering the wildfire in wine country, where smoke can be just as damaging as flames for growers.
They're not going to know for a little while because the grapes that are on the vines right now, they've still got a couple of more weeks to go before they're ready to harvest, and they can't actually test a grape and get an accurate reading on smoke damage.
First Lady Melania Trump is inviting students in grades K through 12 to a new national contest using AI tools to solve community issues. Wall Street, the Dow is up 5 points. This is CBS News.
Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete
local news and weather brought to you by Mississippi Energy Services. We're your fast, affordable, and friendly generator service company. msenergy.us. msenergy.us.
When there's not enough money, 88 this afternoon with a 20% chance for rain, otherwise mostly sunny. Clear and 67 tonight. Wednesday, sunny and 88, and by Friday, a 70% chance for rain. You've got news on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis. Hinds County is building a new jail and making improvements, and for that they need money, some of which is not there. So supervisors are proposing to raise taxes possibly by October 1st. The property tax increase would on average be about $1.60 for a house valued at $200,000. They have to make a decision by September 15th. A bank robber ran toward a school in Morton Monday morning, according to the police chief, and that's why some schools were put on lockdown. That happened about 9 a.m. when Priority 1 was held up. In Rankin County, deputies are trying to find the person or people who shot some cows last week on a farm on East Mountain Creek Road, which is near Highway 469. The person who owns the cows told deputies that the person drove off in a white Ford F-250 with a loud exhaust. Deputies are asking for info. He drove her to Mississippi with the permission of her parents. 44-year-old Andrea Shannon, who was a homeschool association basketball coach, groomed an underage player and her parents into trusting him, then had a sexual relationship with the girl that lasted several years, blackmailing her to keep it going. Shannon got his federal sentence Monday, 12 years in prison. Reginald Carroll was shot last Wednesday in South Haven, and the comedian from Maryland died at the hospital. Now police have ID'd the man they have in custody. He's 38-year-old Trinell Marquise Williams. More news in 1 hour on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are the individual views and opinions of the people expressing them and do not necessarily reflect those of this radio station, its parent, affiliated, or related entities, agents, or employees.
Yes, you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are back, locked, loaded, and ready for launch for hour number 2. And we are just getting going, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a great hour. You know, in the last hour, we talked about all the different things that were going on with education. And in this hour, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things that are going on as it pertains to the rest of the stories going on around Mississippi and the nation. And these are just going to be, this is going to be more like hot takes with respect to what I think about the different stories that are going on. First place we got to start is the state of Maryland. And you all have heard the story of the illegal alien who was a Maryland man. We found out that he's actually an El Salvadorian citizen. We found that out. And if you remember, he went through the entire immigration process. He went through the entire process of getting the deportation order to go out. He had all of his due process stuff. It was observed. It was followed. There was no problem. And what happened? Do you remember? I'll tell you what happened. He ended up going down there and having to come back. And why? Because it wasn't that this guy was the main character or the president was the main character. It was the judge. These stinking judges who put themselves in the middle of a legal battle, not because it's an actual legal issue, but because it is what they feel politically. No legal standing. Never mind that this guy's gone through the immigration court system. Immigration court system doesn't have the same type of requirements that a regular court does. He's not a U.S. citizen. And now they're freaking out. And it's glorious. Because this joker, he's going to be rolling. He's going to be rolling into Uganda prison. And immediately, all the liberals are freaking out. And this judge has absolutely gone ahead and put another stay on this. Well, Trump isn't messing around. He's not messing around at all. He's absolutely taking the entire court system of Maryland to the Supreme Court. just filed during the break. They were talking about it, and I think that's great. How great is that they're going back there and they're going to make that happen? The sooner this gets taken care of and the sooner we get these courts out of the way, we can start getting rid of these illegal aliens. And look, I'm not trying to deny due process for any American citizen. I'm not. I am trying to get rid of the liberal legalism, the lawfare that is infested our court system. We've talked about this before. Look, if I want a conservative point of view, I go to Florida or Texas. If I want a liberal point of view, I go to New York, DC, Chicago, or LA, right? This isn't anything over the, and this is what we've descended to. I call it the Pandora's box of lawfare. Bottom line is that it has been opened up by the Democrats, and now everybody's screaming through it at Mach speed. And I don't know how we get that fixed other than get new rules with new attorneys in there, new judges in there, and say, look, we're not going to go down this road that we're going down. Will it happen? I don't think so. But we can see. More news. Trump signs executive order to outlaw burning of the American flag. Later that evening, a 20-year-old vet gets arrested for burning an American flag. This is my take on it. I'm not getting myself anywhere near that situation because I know I'd get angry and upset. And I'm not saying I would do anything stupid, but I'm not even going to entertain that. I'm going to extricate myself from that situation and do that. Burning the flag is about that is the strongest signal an American can make about their government. And people will say that's protected speech. And I'm not sure I agree with that, but I'm not going to argue that in court. But what I will say is this. If you are going to protect the speech of a veteran burning an American flag, you better respect the free speech of an American citizen who burns a LGBTQ flag. No difference. It's absolutely insanity what's going on with some of these liberals ending up getting conservatives and good people thrown in jail for burning stuff, burning a flag in protest. It's hate speech. It's hate speech. It's hate speech burning any flag. Are we so stupid and so unintelligent that we can't think of another way to express ourselves besides burning the flag? For me, I'm not gonna, support anybody who does that, but I'm not gonna put myself in the middle of it either. Because if I do, I'm gonna be in trouble. Now, let's see if I can get this sound clip to work. We've got this thing called the goodness gracious counter, because everybody knows that's a topic I love to use. And unfortunately, my computer's not going to work, so I'm going to skip that story. I'll go to the next one. The United States Navy has finally replaced their chief of naval operations. As you know, President Trump came in 7 months ago, and immediately fired the sitting CNO. I'm not saying she was doing a bad job. I'm not saying she was doing a good job. I do know she was pushing the LGBTQ agenda down the throats of the United States Navy, and that's never good. And just today, President Trump has finally gone ahead and appointed a new CNO, and I think that's going to be a good deal for the Navy. We still have 187 openings that need hearings for the Senate to have appointments. We are so far behind on that. It is not good. We need to do better. And I know it's gonna take some time. But until we get to that point to where we can start getting these nominees quickly vetted and into the government, it's gonna take a lot longer for us to have meaningful impact on these different organizations. And look, the Navy is in a bad way, everybody, with their shipbuilding. I don't know if you've paid attention to that. It is not good at all. It's really not. We are retiring more ships than we can build. We are rapidly losing our tactical advantage over the Chinese. It's just what it is. If we do not end up having this fixed, we're going to end up in a situation where we are going to be vastly undermanned inside the South China Sea. And it's not going to be good. And the guy who's been hired, and forgive me, I'm having technical difficulties with the computer, so I can't pull up the actual story to get the guy's name. But this guy is viewed as someone who really understands the shipbuilding process, how to make it happen, to get the Navy going again in the right direction. Just for some clarity on this, the Gerald R. Ford, which is the newest aircraft carrier that we have, it's in a new class. We no longer have Nimitz class, we have Ford class. It was 2 years late. That's not normally a big deal for the United States Navy because it's the first of a line. They've got to work out all the kinks and deadlines. Well, the next ship, CVN 79, the USS John Fitzgerald Kennedy, was supposed to be commissioned this month. It's now been delayed 2 years. We are having to extend the USS Nimitz because of the delays we have with shipbuilding. And this isn't World War II. This isn't yesteryear where we can just crank out ships. Unfortunately, they're so specialized, so high tech, that it takes years and years and years to build these ships. And I don't know how the Navy's going to speed it up. I don't know if it's just going to be a crash program. It's not a money issue. At least I don't feel it's a money issue. You can't throw any more money at this. It's simply a manpower issue. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We're going to take our early break so I can reboot this computer and we can talk about all the other stories I have lined up for us. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We will be right back.
Look, the Democratic.
And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show. I think we've got the computer issue fixed. Great job during the break, just sitting there focusing on trying to get that all taken care of. And we've got to talk about our man Harry Enton. And he's taken my saying, my goodness gracious saying, and we've got to have an over under on every segment on how many times he says my goodness gracious. And this is a great point that he's talking about. We've talked about how the Democrat approval rating is absolutely through the floor. In fact, it's so bad that Cracker Barrel has a better approval rating than the Democrats. And Henry Enton has a great way of delivering it, and we're going to listen to it. Let's see if we can get this to work. Here we go.
Look, the Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we
Goodness gracious counter 1.
talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party.
Look, we've talked about this, but we've got people out there all over Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, New Jersey, Michigan, Wisconsin, that are going and registering new Republicans. It's huge. It's having an impact, and we're seeing it. In Pennsylvania alone, the voter swing is 4.5 million voters. I'm sorry, not Pennsylvania, that's Florida. Florida, 4.5 million voters. That's a lot of people switching parties. And remember, politics is a weird thing. So when you take away one vote from the Democrat and you add that to the Republican, that's actually a 2-vote swing. Democrats go down 1, Republicans go up 1. The best way to put this is you've got 4-4. You got 4 voters in a pool. Instead of 2-2, you take 1 away from one side, put it to the other side. Now it's 3-1. And it just continues to change. Let's continue this.
Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005 in all four of these key battleground states. We go out to the Southwest, Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle.
Goodness gracious, counter number 2. He's up to 2. And what's really interesting with all of this that's coming in, not just from Harry Enton, he just is putting it in a way that is entertaining and a little bit comedic, but it's still stressing the point, is that these numbers are going back to the early 2000s when we just got attacked in 9/11, when there was a strong sense of nationalism and patriotism. You know, that's where these numbers are getting to, and it's going back even further in some places.
North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now,
Scott Pressler deserves an enormous amount of credit for what happened in Pennsylvania and how he has put together an entire organization that's flipped Pennsylvania on its head. We need to do that here in Mississippi. And it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. But it's going to take people going door to door in neighborhoods that normally don't get visited by conservatives. People are saying it's going to be dangerous. I think, honestly, we're getting to a point where people just want help, and they're looking for it any place they can get it.
Now, what types of gains are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest, a gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious for Republicans.
My goodness gracious, 3. We went over, the over-under was 2, so we're over 1. And Harry Enton makes a great point. And again, I play this to you not to sit there and toot my own horn or pat myself on the back, but just to prove to you again and again that we're winning. And I know we have certain callers that come on here and say it's a great day to be a Democrat. It's not. They're in the mud. But we have to go out there and have meaningful solutions and talk about problems that otherwise aren't getting talked about. I'm really excited where Trump is taking this. And by the way, Trump came out as far as the Cracker Barrel situation is concerned and basically said Cracker Barrel should return to its old logo. I'm not checking the stock every 5 minutes or whatever. I don't agree in doing that. That's not what this show is about. It's about establishing the culture. I do think that the people who are behind this, it's uncanny to see how BlackRock and Vanguard are behind all the woke turns in American business over the last 5 years, whether that be Disney, whether it be Cracker Barrel, whether that be Blue Jeans, or whether that be Budweiser. These two big institutional investing companies are driving this. There's correlation and causation. You can see it all right there. It's not opinion. It's not feeling. At some point, we've got to stand up and say, you know what, our stock market's important, our culture is important, and if we got people out there who are trying to destroy it, they need to be found out too. Whether or not we actually do that or not, that's a whole nother story. We've talked about the Federal Reserve and how the Federal Reserve has continued to refuse to lower the interest rate. Well, one of the board of governors on the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook, she's having her own issues. She's being investigated for some type of mortgage irregularity. It's just, again, it's uncanny We think about people like Adam Schiff, who's got mortgage irregularity problems. He's going to be prosecuted. You've got Letitia James in New York, mortgage problems. She's going to end up being prosecuted. This chick, Lisa Cook, mortgage irregularities. All the projection that they were putting on Donald J. Trump about mortgage irregularities at Mar-a-Lago are completely being washed away, zapped away. Why? Because the Democrats are simply projecting their own problems onto President Trump, and we're getting light to it. And what's interesting about this Federal Reserve Governor, Lisa Cook, is that the Republicans aren't even really talking about it. It's all the liberals and neutrals out there. And they're not talking, oh, this is bad. They're saying this woman has really got a serious ethical issue here and should be making decisions about our federal interest rate. They say that every time the interest goes down by half a point, we save almost $500 billion. That's $500 billion. That is so much money. Last story of this segment. The United States Coast Guard had a bust of $460 million of cocaine. Over 43,000 pounds. Just an incredible amount of cocaine busted off the coast of Miami. They thought that that was enough cocaine in that one bust to kill every person in the state of Florida. The war that's going to go down with the drug cartels in Mexico, how they're bringing in cocaine, how they're bringing in marijuana, how they're bringing in fentanyl, and literally frying out the American citizenry, where all they want to do is get high. They don't want to work. Everybody calls it an opiate addiction crisis. This is just my opinion, and it's very controversial. It's not the legal opiates that people are getting. It is all this illegal stuff that's coming in that's completely flooding the market and trashing everything out. Then, from Dark Horse Press, a man in Picayune got busted for 5 grams of coke in his underwear. The difference is huge, but the story is the same. Drugs kill you, no matter whether you're doing the big shipments or the little ones. You're going to end up getting caught, and you're going to end up spending time in jail. Poor form, though, man. I'm sticking cocaine in your underwear. I don't get it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We will be right back. And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, locked, loaded, ready for launch. Getting into the judges, we've talked about the judges getting involved, and at these lower levels, overturning what Trump wants to do, goes up on appeal, ends up winning. But what's really starting to influence a lot of these stories now, and I'm just going to pick one from CBS News. The judge goes on and says, "Yep, we're dismissing Trump's lawsuit against the state of Maryland federal court, 15 judges. Don't pick on us. We're good people." And in the decision, this judge writes this, and I'll just read the paragraph before it and then what the judge wrote. In a footnote on his decision, Judge Cullen criticized the Trump administration's repeated attacks on members of the federal judiciary who have ruled against the president's agenda. Although some tension between the coordinate branches of government is a hallmark of our constitutional system, this concerned effort by the executive to smear and impugn the individual judges who rule against it is both unprecedented and unfortunate. What's unfortunate is that you're political activists on a political judiciary trying to make judgments that have absolutely nothing to do with you. You go ahead and you make a judgment. You say that the president's wrong, and he only comes back to have your position overturned. This is what we call in the business a track record of failure. I'm not surprised that these judges are doing this. The left is completely discombobulated. Everybody in America knows we've got an immigration problem, that President Biden and Kamala Harris absolutely destroyed the border of the United States of America for 4 years. In Mississippi, we continue to track down kids who are in Mississippi right now who were trafficked here. Don't believe me? Go talk to Lynn Finch. She'll tell you all about it. We've reported on it. And what's really ending up killing the Democrat Party in all of this is everybody can see that this quote unquote Maryland man who is an illegal alien needs to be out of this country. He's not here legally, and yet you have the Democrats and the judges fighting for him. It'd be one thing if he was a U.S. citizen, then yes, he should be here, but he's not. If he was a U.S. citizen and he did all of this, he'd be in jail right now. But you got the Democrat National Committee and the left-wing news media carrying this dude's water, and it's what's submarining him. It's what's killing the popularity of the Democrat Party. And this needs to be repeated over and over again so that we don't forget it. More good news. Everybody's always complaining about how these tariffs are absolutely destroying American businesses overseas. One example of this is the Norway Wealth Fund. They completely divested of Caterpillar, an American company that makes large equipment, because the Israelis were using it to bulldoze Gaza. If you go look at their stock, it's down today about $3. Over the past 5 days, it's up, and over long term, it's been up. But Norway is divesting itself from them. While you never want that to happen, that's fine. This is how the world corrects itself. When the country of Norway doesn't like something that America does, they have the right to divest from it. I don't think it's going to help their wealth fund in the long term. In the short term, everybody's going to look at it and go, "Oh, wow." But ultimately, Caterpillar moves on. They still make the best large equipment around the world. Everybody uses Caterpillar. And they're a great American company. I wish they'd moved to Mississippi. Now, everybody here knows that I've got a problem with Boeing that they just overcharge everything. They've done a horrible job with the Constellation program and now the Artemis program that's supposed to get America back to the moon. I really don't like their overruns with their airplanes, but the world still likes Boeing. Korean Air makes airline's biggest ever Boeing jet order amid Trump-Lee summit. President Trump once again bringing home the goods to America. And I want Boeing to succeed, but they've got a DEI problem there too. It's terrible. And the sooner we get DEI out of our DNA, we're going to be a lot better for it. But let's talk about it. Korean Air announced a $50 billion program order Monday for 103 Boeing airplanes. Moreover, they're going to use GE Aerospace Engines, another American company. The airplanes, which consist of 787s, 777s, and 737s, are worth about $36.5 billion. And then the engine deal is going to be worth $13.7 billion. This is great news because Boeing builds a lot more than just commercial airliners. They do a lot of military work, and this helps sustain that. And right now, according to CNBC, is that there are many countries out there with national airlines that are trying to negotiate with Trump and this administration to bring in new airplanes. This is great. This is what a president's supposed to do. Not supposed to take naps and go on debate stages and completely lose track of where they are. It's not all rosy out there. There's definitely going to be more bumps and hiccups, especially as countries decide that, hey, you know what? We're going to try to flex. That's what my friend Alan always says, dude, they're going to try to flex. And they should. If they genuinely feel that that's in the best interest of Denmark is to pull out a Caterpillar in a U.S. company that has provided them incredible stability and long-term growth, then we should do that. They should do that. I don't think it's going to end up boding well from them in the future. But that's where we're at. Last story I want to talk about, and this is from Illinois, and it's just typical. You know, there are so many cameras out there recording our every move. I mean, you think you're out in town at the mall or downtown, walking down the boardwalk or Main Street, that you're not being recorded? There are cameras everywhere. Flock Safety, a company operating automated license plate reading cameras nationwide, has paused cooperation with federal agencies due to concerns about the purpose of their investigations. In other words, we don't like the fact that our technology is being used to identify potential illegal alien illegal alien traffickers. The company found that the Customs and Border Protection had accessed Illinois data though it's unclear if the agency was seeking immigration-related data. We know that's what it was. And now Flock Safety has reduced the national government's ability to use their data. I don't know what's going to happen to Flock Safety. Are they just going to allow state governments to use their systems and not the federal government? I mean, if they do, that's going to set up an interesting debate. And again, this all goes back to Pandora's box, because do I want to be able to go ahead and track down all these illegal aliens using any legal means necessary? Yeah. But that also means that they're reading my license plate. And if I'm not doing anything wrong, why should I be scanned? Oh, Andrew, you don't have anything to worry about. You're not doing anything wrong. That's not the point. And maybe it comes back to the right to privacy, that there's certain expectations of privacy when you're out and about. There is no expectation of privacy when you're driving your car. I remember that going through pre-law. We had a big debate on that. And of course, the Associated Propaganda News Reporting Agency is hailing the decision not to allow the federal government to use license plates technology to see whether or not that's registered to a legal immigrant, whether that's registered to somebody who might be suspected of trafficking. We've all heard of all the stories of where these truckloads of people have been found dead, baked inside an 18-wheeler. And you know, this is just I guess it's just the polarization of American politics today. How angry are we going to get today? It will continue to grow and grow. There's a lot more stories about it, but the bottom line is that there are tools out there that the government has to find out anything they want to find out about you or I. The NDAA back in 2002 allowed the government to go into your cell phones, and there are no less than 20 different cell phone trackers on your cell phone to let the government know where you're at, whether that be through a federal program and software installed into the iOS, whether you're Apple or Samsung, or whether that be you allow certain apps to track your every movement, and then the government just goes in and gleans it that way. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, engineer, or future astronaut to realize what's going on. But we will continue to monitor things that happen in the United States culturally, whether they're private businesses who are supporting the war of the United States being invaded by illegal immigrants, or whether you're on the other side of it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We're going to take our last break. We'll be right back.
I don't have to tell you about the I don't have to tell you about the generations-old problem of gun violence on the streets of Chicago. You are making some headway there just in the last couple of years. But what is your response to President Trump as he floats the idea of sending the National Guard into Chicago?
Well, good morning. First of all, a military occupation of the city of Chicago would not only be illegal, but unconstitutional and costly. The city of Chicago.
Too boring.
something that he took lightly. And she mentioned the drop in homicides. JPD at this point has investigated 37 homicides in the city of Jackson.
And we are back for the final segment of the Andrew Gosser Show. Great first hour. Second hour needs work. Not going to try to hide it. The computer went completely on the fritz. Maybe I just start printing everything out and killing a bunch of trees. The environmentalists will love me for that. We've got a couple more stories to talk about here. First of all, we are all devastated by the illegal alien truck driver who made an illegal U-turn and 3 people lost their lives. You know, that guy was licensed in California. Mostly blue states give illegal driver's license and CDLs to illegal immigrants. They can't read the language. They can't speak the language. They don't understand the language. They don't understand the signs, and they just do whatever they want to do. Well, the Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, threatens funding penalties for 3 states if English language rules for truckers are not enforced. Now, the only state I know that's actually been actively enforcing them is Arkansas, where they had state troopers going to truck stops and just questioning if they could read English. And if they couldn't, they got swept up. These illegal aliens are taking truck driving jobs that we Americans could take for ourselves. We have a labor shortage problem in America right now. We talked about it yesterday. Roughly 30% of jobs go on the market for more than 3 months because Americans either don't want to do them or aren't qualified to do them. Not everybody's going to be a rocket scientist, engineer, or astronaut. Truck driver is one of those jobs that pays really well. You're gone a lot, but it pays well. I'm glad to see that the Trump administration is going after this any way that we can. The left is absolutely melting down, and this is coming from the National Pulse. Giant Trump portrait appears draped over government department in D.C. And apparently there's 2 portraits, one of Trump and one of Teddy Roosevelt, saying American workers first, which I agree with. We should always hire Americans first whenever we can. And we will. It might take us a little bit of time, but that's all right. But what's really interesting is how this left-wing rag, which is reporting this, former President Donald Trump, he's the current President Donald Trump. And this is dated August 26, 2025. Former President Donald Trump, Department of Labor, and critics, including the Democrat Congressman Jim McGovern and other labor organizations like the AFL-CIO, they're all complaining about this for putting American workers first. Really, labor? Look, I realize that operating engineers don't like me. That's okay. It's not that I don't like you. I just don't agree with you. But isn't it nice to have an American president who wants to put American workers first? And here you are whining and complaining. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. You're listening to Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll see you in 22 hours. Whoa.